So now that we're finally done renaming all the parts so that Most Wanted can recognize them, there is the very difficult to explain part, which is materials. But before that, we need to head to CarToolkit and, or well, before that, we need to first you need to save. Saving is very important. If you haven't saved so far, then please do, because in case there's any issues, then you'll be coming back to this a lot and then just going back and forth between a lot of things. So press A, Alt G, and then uh, file, first save, and then file export .obj, and then it can be any name you want, just yeah, car, yeah, or just Yaris export. And it will take a small while, depending on how many parts you have. The more you have, the longer it takes, but uh, it will be done very quickly. Anyways, now that the OBJ has been exported, you can click File, Load File, and then go to that location, and then import it into CarToolkit. And what you'll immediately notice is that you had originally, the car you had originally, it was facing this direction where my mouse is, but this one is facing the other direction. And yes, I did tell you to close the reference. However, this is where having it open, where you'll have to open it again. So you'll just you'll go to where is it? So you'll go to where Blender is located. I would suggest you make a shortcut of the exe so that you can open it again. Open more than one window at once. In any case, Blender, and then wait a minute. This will be a reference, and we put it over here and original here. So what you'll see is that we never changed or rotated anything. We just split it apart. Like if we were to press A, then Alt G, that's what the location is. But we're not press Control Z. We don't want to save any of that. We never rotated anything. And what you'll see is that these cars are looking down a specific direction. This is the back of the car, and this is the front of the car, and it's along this red line. The red line represents the x-axis, the green line the y-axis, and if you do this, then this line represents the z-axis. So now what you'll notice is that these cars are all oriented along the red line. Now if you were to actually rotate it by selecting everything by A, then R, Z, 90, then pressing Control S, and then exporting. Now you can see that it says red, which means that it will just override existing, but that's exactly what you want, because you'll override so many times that it would be a really big waste of time if you were to come up with a new name again. So just click Export OBJ, it will override the old one. And then way back when I told you about the function of reload, now that file has been overwritten because you just exported it with the same name, you can click reload, and you'll see that it's been rotated. However, another mistake we have made, this is the red line. If we were to put ourselves in this direction, it looks like that both of these cars are facing the same direction, which is down this red line. However, if I were to rotate this 180 degrees to the other side, and then put my camera like this, or my view like this, then it would look like the same thing, even though it's the completely opposite direction. So what you want to do is press N, and you want to make sure that it is facing the red line, and that if you press any of the parts and then press G and then X, you can find out which side, if you zoom in, which axis is the positive X and which axis is the negative X. So if I'm taking it along this side, which it's facing, the value of x under location, it's decreasing, it's going into the negative, meaning that it's facing the wrong side, it's facing the opposite side. So press A R Z 180, that will rotate it along by 180 degrees. And now if we're to press G and then X and take it along, it would face positive X. So we can press Control S and then export and go back to CarToolkit and reload. And finally, it is facing the correct direction, and we can know if we were to, if you go to recent files and then double click on the file, then it loads the recent one, and uh, it loads from the left. You just have to select the one. You'll only have two, but in any case, yaris.obj is facing the correct direction. And that's what the shape of it looks like, and it finally looks like an actual car in Most Wanted. And you can see all these, it's separated by all these different parts. Now there is the issue of textures, which is something we'll come back to. It is important, but the only way to understand it is first by going to the export tab. Now here is where all the magic happens and the files are created. So you saw that if you click file and then load file, that you can open the .bin files of the cars and load them. That's what this program also does. It creates geometry.bin files and textures.bin files so that the game can actually read them. So what you'll first do is, since this is probably your first time using it, you'll click this folder icon, and then you'll then navigate to wherever your game is installed. So in this situation, for me it would be this speed. No, wait, and I accidentally lost Most Wanted. That's not what you want. Okay, you want to clicking this file icon opens the folder where it is, in case you want it. Clicking this dot icon is what you'll do, and then go to where your game is installed, and then go to speed.exe and double click it. The game will recognize that the CarToolkit will recognize that that's where the file is. After that, the configuration file. This file is where basically the make or break thing, because the configuration file is what tells CarToolkit not only what each part is and what purpose it serves, but also that the materials, and that's what we'll have to understand before we actually move on to working with textures. Before working on that, the output file, if you set it to auto, it will just select the location that you've written above and then adjust it accordingly here. Now you do want to make sure that the game is selected to Need for Speed Most Wanted, or it will cause errors. Car type is set to racer, and Sylvia S13. This is a parameter that you can actually name, and as you can see, if you rename it over there, then it will also get renamed over here. This will be the name of the file that will be used everywhere. No, it won't be the file that you see displayed in game, like for example RX7 or GTI. This is just the code name of the car, so make sure to keep it short and something that you can recognize the car with. So in this case, I would just set it to Yaris, and that's about it. Now, once that's done, you can see that the folder icon, it's already adjusted and made it that. However, if you were to click this, okay, well, in my case it works, but let's say if I was to do it Yaris 3, then it doesn't exist because that folder has not been created yet. But you don't need to worry about that, because that folder will automatically be created whenever you click one of these two. Don't click any of these yet, because we still have plenty of work to do. Now, the way the configuration file works is when we exported the RX7 or whatever reference car you have, if you were to actually go to the folder of it, you'll see that the original RX7 .obj, which was the one you exported by going to geometry and then export all, there was a text document as well, and this text document, it will be your reference configuration file. Everything that you see here is basically what you need to do to tell the game not only what each purpose each part serves, but also how the car is going to look like. However, it's not as hard as one might think, because, well, the first thing is that we're not going to be working with loads. We're only going to be working with underscore a, and that immediately replaces, well, it cuts down our work. So if we were to do underscore a, uh, well, we can't actually select it. So what we'll do is, the instead of actually copying and pasting or editing this, what we can do is just have another notepad open side by side and just look at which parts we have. So if we were to actually minimize this and ignoring the reference we had, don't save. If we open this and then this, then what we can see is any parts that correlate, we can just copy and paste those directly. The layout of this is the first word, as you can see, is part. This can be either part, material, or marker. And marker is also something we'll get to later, as is material. So first we want to focus on part right now. Then any gap at all, be it a space or tab, just any form of a gap, you want to write MW. This is, I haven't experimented with this because I've only modded Most Wanted and no other game, but you want to make sure that this second word is always MW for modding Most Wanted. Then we move on to the name of the part, which is just the name of the part will serve as the. Oh God. This is a bit confusing, but I guess I don't really know how the program works, but essentially you just have to write the name of the part twice. So in this situation, base underscore a, you just have to write that, then base underscore a again, and then you repeat that, and you can see under base underscore a is body underscore a. So part mw, and then I can press tab here, I guess. It doesn't matter if this is tab and then this is space. It's just, it helps to keep everything organized and you can see what's actually happening. So kit 00 underscore body underscore a, and then and to do this you can press Control Shift and then left arrow key, and then Control C, and then tab again, and then Control V, and then you just repeat this for every single part that you have in your blend file. The only issue is it's very repetitive, it takes a very long time, but welcome to modding, I guess. You can just see from the length of the video just how tedious of a process this is, but once you figure it out, you can just do it significantly faster than before, and it gets better. I can assure you it does get better. So we'll just repeat this entire process. Well, finally, now that all of the parts have been named, fortunately for us, there weren't that many because we're not working with loads. I have no idea how people at Black Box were able to do this. Anyways, this is the original one from the RX-7. As I said, first was part, then was material. And you can see on the screen, this is the RX-7 configuration. Here's material, and I'll show you an image of CarToolkit, and I have no script prepared for this, so because I just could not figure out how best to explain this, so I'm just hoping that everything lines up and that you're able to hopefully understand. So the first thing to do is, since we actually, you don't have to do this, I'm just trying to explain it to you because we will be heading back into Blender We're not immediately done. In fact, I guess our work is only halfway done. Um, this is the configuration file we have, and this is on the left. You can see here's CarToolkit, and you have this entire. Whenever you load a geometry.bin, what CarToolkit does is it also loads the textures for it also loads the textures alongside that for whatever vehicle it is, but it doesn't do that. It only does that if you're loading a geometry.bin. If you're loading any other file, or if you're loading the textures.bin directly, then I don't think it works. I know that it doesn't work for any other file directly, but as for if it loads with the textures.bin directly, that one I haven't tried. I would have to, but in any case, you can see that there are a lot of lines for the materials, and there are no loads, so it seems like a lot of work, and it's not as bad as it looks, but it is quite painful work, I will say that. The first thing to note is that the orientation, the format of the line of the part is the part MW, name of part, name of part. That's it. But for material, first is material, then MW, and it doesn't look like there's a gap here, but if you press tab, then it's just a very tiny gap, and it is there. So material MW, and then there are going to be three words. There's going to be three words essentially. So if you can see here, like this is word one, this is word two, and then this is word three. And you would know what all the. I'm just hoping to explain this well. The first word is the name of the material that you see in Blender. So, for example, for this vehicle right here, this part right here, it has all of these materials. So the configuration file, uh, it would, instead of having this name, it would have something like this. It's the exact name that you see in Blender with exact caps lock and numbers. Do not miss out anything. That's what you'll be writing under A, which is the Blender material name. And then for B is the shader applied. Now you'll notice that while in game, if you happen to look through the windows, or well, the windows themselves, in fact, or just look through them, and you can see a bit of the inside of the car, the or just the tires. Not every part of the car uses the same shader, and and this is what B is. B is shader. Shader means that what kind of lighting and what kind of reflection it's given. So if you're doing something like let's say car skin. Car skin is the word used for the our exterior of the car. It's the repaintable color of the car. We'll get to that later, but that's the shading it uses is called car skin. If you're doing brake light, the shading it uses is brake light. But you don't have to actually be specific. You can interchange and use whatever shader you want, depending on how much detail you want. So just because it says that this part uses dull plastic uses dull plastic, and that this part uses this shader, you don't necessarily have to follow along. You can just make your own judgment. So let's say that you have, for example, here you have frame. I have no idea currently which part of the car that is, but frame, assuming that it's a reflective part, I would just use car skin here. I don't have to use aluminum or chrome or anything else, because car skin is reflective. And for something else like body, I would use car skin. Well, right. For body, I would use car skin. For something like the window, I would use uh, brake light, because technically, yeah, they are different, but or I would use windshield actually. And for tire, I can use rubber. Normally, you would be expected to use rubber, but there have been cases where I sometimes use the shader interior because I just felt lazy, and interior is also a non-reflective shader. To get the absolute best result, you do want to make sure that the shaders do line up with whatever part they're using, but you can mix and match. And if it's giving you too much pain, you don't necessarily have to match it perfectly. You can use different shaders for different materials, and shaders can be reused. There's no limit to them. C is where, well, now before actually getting to C, you can see that, pun not intended, we can click on geometry, then export all, and just like that we can click on textures and then export all. So what I'll do is Blender renders. I'll make a new folder here, then CarToolkit textures export. We'll name it that, and then it will export those. So if we actually go there now, you can see all of these textures which you just saw here, and we can minimize CarToolkit, I guess. Um, and you'll see that all of these parts start with rx7 underscore, but they don't necessarily have to. C is the name of the texture file, and this once this is understood, I can finally actually go back to Blender and explain everything even better. But the way a material works is that, well, you know what, let's just go to Blender right now. If I were to bring in a cube, let's say mesh cube, and then give it a new material, uh, and then make it like green, make it metalware, less reflective than material preview, you would see this type of property. It almost looks like jelly. But whatever you see right now, you won't see this in game, even if you export it the model, because the reason is that all of these parameters you see here, all of these things that you can change, they're only editable in Blender, but the game can't actually see these because they're Blender exclusive. The game can only see the 3D model and textures, which are 2D images, which means that the purpose that a material serves is not to give it a look, but uh, a, just to tell the 3D model from which texture file it has to be using. So now if we actually go back to the this and then actually open the folder where the textures are, you can see that some of these textures are already in the game, such as carbon fiber or metal swatch. You'll see that there is no percent underscore behind them. They're inbuilt textures, and you don't need any files to actually load those textures. However, the rest of the textures, such as the logo, the lights, and things like that, they require their own texture files, and to actually add to actually tell the game to use those texture files, it has to be done inside the config. You have to, in the third word, actually write the name of the texture, and you can't unfortunately make it any name. All names here have to be recognizable, the except for the first one. Like, if I was to write any name for A, like for example, if I was to use materials.008, nothing would happen. But the rest of the names for which are used in B and in C, they have to be recognizable names. Because if you write a shader that doesn't even exist, let's say I was to write iron instead of aluminum, the game would not recognize that. The card toolkit would not recognize that because it does not exist as a shader. And then texture name is also specific. Texture name, it can be among any names, but you'll actually know the list you can choose from if you were to go to wherever wherever card toolkit is installed, which would be, if we were to go to CarToolkit folder, this is the folder of CarToolkit. You can go into data, most wanted, and then you'll see multiple text files, and you can just open them to see the data that CarToolkit loads. Do not edit any of these files unless you actually know what you're doing, because they're the basis on which CarToolkit works. And in any case, textures, if you were to click on this, these are the names that you can assign to any texture. You can't have any names that are not that are outside of this. They have to match up. However, there is the thing that you can give any material any texture name. So, for example, we have if we were to go to um, the place where we extracted the RX7 texture files, uh, you can see that this is badging, this is brake light on, this is tire, this is MISC. If I were to change this name to something that's already here, such as uh, RX7 underscore rim, then and I made sure that the rest of these, wherever there is MISC, there would be rim, then it would be fine, because rim, as you can see here, is a name that is recognized by CarToolkit. As is driver, as is engine, it can be any texture. If it's different texture files, you can give them any names. But you do have to also make sure, but some names have specific properties that you need to keep in mind, such as, for example, uh, brake light glass off and brake light glass on. These, or well, all six of these, you can just see from the name. There are textures that are only loaded when the brakes are applied or when headlights are applied. Otherwise, they are not applied. Otherwise, if you want a texture to be active at all times, so for something like just the look of the car with like the headlights, or no, not the headlights, like the tire or the logos or the door handles or the interior, then you won't be using any of these. And another thing to note is that if you were to look at the, uh, let's see here, if you were to look at the actual 3D model, then you can see here these types of boxes. These boxes, well, squares, they are placeholders for uh, the logo of whatever the car is. And the logo, if you can actually, if we were to go to here, if you actually look at the interior, not interior, well, no, this is the interior badging. You can see here that the background of it is transparent, and just like that, when it's actually loaded onto the car, it will look transparent. You have to make sure that uh, badging is uh, this one. Badging is used for uh, where is this? You have to make sure that whatever texture file you have for the logos or anything that's transparent or see-through, you have to make sure to give it the name of badging. Now you might be thinking that these, if you were able to notice, these files are in the file format of .dds, and .dds is a file format which is used by Most Wanted and a lot of other games. But normally Windows can't actually recognize that file format, and neither can a lot of programs like Photoshop. I haven't actually tried other programs like GIMP or Krita. GIMP might work, and Photoshop, as far as I know, needs an extension for it. So instead, I would just recommend to get this software right here, which is called Paint.net. It's completely free. You can get it from this website, getpaint.net, and it allows you to basically open any type of image file to at all. Like, for example, this file. This is a .tga file, because this is apparently what Forza uses. Um, but not only can I now open it with Paint.net, but I can also convert it into a DDS file. And one thing to note, however, is with Most Wanted, there are two types of .dds files. I can just name this anything, the renaming can be done later, so AFDF is fine right now. When you click on Save with .dds, you'll be given this window. You can ignore the rest. This is what you want to focus on. Uh, DDS there are multiple types of settings to it, and if there is a part that is that is going to be a bit see-through, such as the glass of a headlight or a tail light, then you want to make sure that it is set to DXT3. There are other formats to DDS, but uh, as far as I know, Most Wanted you only uses DXT1 and DXT3, and you can even actually view, you can even actually confirm this if you go here for, well, this is DXT1. Badging is set to DXT3 because, of course, it's not going to have a black background. For some reason, tire is set to DXT3. I have no idea what's behind that. Interior is set to DXT1, and DXT1 is like a JPEG. Basically, it's the complete basic version, and you can see this part, the grid, that represents the transparency of it. So if I set to DXT1, the transparency disappears on this side. But if I set it to DXT3, then the transparency does show up. And then if I click OK, it will take like less than a second, and then it will save as a .dds with your name in your location, and there we have it. So now that we have this DDS file, what we can do is remember how we had this textures list, and then we had the config file, and then here's the reference from the RX7. So just like that, we can actually make material, then tab MW. Well, tab is it actually visible MW. Then there, remember 3 words, which would be Blender material name, then shader, then texture name. For now, we don't know the Blender material name, so we'll ignore that for now. Leave a space, and then in the shader, since this is for lights, we can we'll use something like whatever is used here. So in this situation, it would be, let's see, brake light. So just brake light, or does headlight? Brake light would do fine. Brake light, and then tab, and then the name of the texture. Since this is set to AFDF right now, that won't work. As I said, it has to be among these names, and this is a bit see-through as well. But badging is only used for badging is not the thing that is used for every single type of see-through. It's only used for things like logos. So for something like this, where if you were to, like this image for example, this has the Toyota logo. This is what I would use. This is the texture I would assign badging to. However, the other for this situation, I would assign some other name. So in this situation, it would be something like it can actually be anything. It's a weird situation where you can actually set any image to be transparent, and any texture file with any name to actually be transparent. However, badging is just a specific situation where if you have logos, then you would want to assign them to that. For some reason, the transparency, at least for me, has not worked when I assigned it to something which was other than badging. So now we'll assign it to, let's just say, %_logo. We'll just make it a %_logo, and then we'll also name this %_logo. So now this is a file that CarToolkit can open and the game can recognize, and then it can actually give the look to the part. And we would do that with all textures that we have, at least those that are used. But we still have the glaring issue of Blender's materials. And this is where things might get a bit complicated. As I said, as I showed with that cube, that that the way materials work in Blender is they don't actually give you they don't actually give the look of the car. They only tell which part of which texture to use. So if I were to, for example, click on this, you can see that it immediately went to body. If I was to click on this, it would, well, okay. If I was to click on all of them and then click on this, it would go to body. Click on this, it would go to window. Click on this, it would also go to window. This, it would go to body. This one, it would go to undercarriage. And you can see that every single face you see over here has been assigned to a material. The material acts like a coordinate. It acts like a placeholder. It tells the 3D modeling program and CarToolkit where it will be using the that where is the texture, where will the texture be used. So just like that, if I was to make the configuration file, I would have to make sure that whatever texture is being used, it corresponds. Meaning that, for example, the texture for this, it would be emblem. But I have no idea what emblem is. So I have no idea what emblem actually is, but it exists in a texture somewhere. And the trial and error and the actual painful part which have to be done is actually figuring out which material uses which texture. Now, in some situations, the texture would already come applied to the car, and you would be very lucky in those situations. That means your work has been reduced by a significant amount. But this is not one of those situations. It varies from 3D model to 3D model from wherever you got it or if you made it on your own. And here you would have to do a lot of trial and error and going back and forth from the shading tab. So what we'll do here is create another window in Blender. So you can do that by, if you put your mouse all the way in the corner and then you have this crosshair icon, you can hold and drag and it should create, well, one second. It should just create another window, and then from here you can click here and then go into shader editor. However, we do need another preview which would just be, or you know what, actually we don't actually need that. So what you can do is just drag it back up and Z and material preview. You don't actually see anything right now, so we'll just leave that be. Now if we were to actually you can see how switching these materials actually switches the shader in here. So it changes with material and material. So if I were to click on this, then it would just be it would show the properties of a different one. So material preview, and what you want to do is have the textures folder open. Blender can already read most of these file types, so you don't actually have to convert them. So it would just be trial and error and seeing which texture is used at which part. So first, the most common one, which is body, we'll just remove this one. The base color is what assigns the texture. And you must remember that everything we're about to do now is only so that we can understand what to write in the config. You don't actually have to save the blend file after doing this. Well, you can. Well, you should, because it helps, but it's not within Blender and the base color and the material properties that affects the look. It's everything inside the config. Nothing will change if you just make everything look like this in Blender. So in any case, this is paint.net, which we can exit. So first we'll try body, and already we can see that something has changed. However, I don't think that body, the main body, the colorable body, has a texture of its own, because if we actually take a look at the files, then we have the files for the lights, apparently the interior, and this, which is probably going to be used for basically everything. So we just get to work, and you also have to remember that that parts which can there are parts which don't actually need their own texture. So for example, windows, all of these windows, you can just select them and then move them out of the way, because what in the config file, and you can actually see this in the RX7 folder, you can set them to a config called, where is it, window_front, which is just the default window texture for every window that in Most Wanted. So we'll set that for windows, and then we have multiple body kits as well. They are overlapping, but they should theoretically use the same files in any case. Let's see. We have this to cover right here, and this is where the Toyota logo would be. So here we can look here and see which one of these files has the Toyota logo, and that would be this one. So no damage would be our primary texture for this file. Press X on that, then here, and you can see that there's a black background here, but that's just how Blender shows transparency. The issue is that if, like I showed you earlier in paint.net, if you were to set this to this texture would be given the name of badging. And if you were to give, but if you were to give it a different name, or if you were to give it, or if you were to make it non-DXT3, then it would cause issues. Now the rest of this, let's see here, we have no idea what that is, so delete that. And then it's just trial and error and seeing which ones line up. So if I were to try this, let's see, yes, that is the texture we want. And you can see that multiple materials do, one material can have multiple uses or areas, and just like that front Toyota logo, that information was also carried over onto the back. And then this material right here is chrome. Now that might just be a plasticky silver, but I do remember, because I already put this car into the mod, that, and you can actually see if you zoom in, that is what looks like a lock, and that is meaning that chrome is also a texture that uses this. And spoiler alert, 90% of the car uses this one texture, so it's just trial and error. But there was this other mod I found, well, not a mod, but there was this other vehicle I found which had like 50 different textures, and they were already mapped, but I had to write the names of every single one of those to actually get it to work. And it's just that, and it wasn't like 50 parts using the same texture. It was 50 different texture files. Like these are 1, 2, 3, 4 files. It was 50 of those. So it's just a lot of trial and error, and you can be lucky or you can be not, depending on what the model is and where you got it. Now this is interior, so we can again try it. Try this one. And if we zoom in, we don't even have to zoom in, we can see that that is in fact the interior. And now headlights, finally. This uses a different texture than the other one, and these are two different materials, so you'll have to assign it to both of them. Now if you actually, as you can see, we deleted that, so that this material got changed. Now the reason a lot of these materials show up in like at once is because we joined a lot of these parts. Otherwise there was actually no need for this many number of materials. So just like that we can just but there isn't an easy way to actually fix that or combine materials. As far as I know, you would have to do them again, and that would just take even longer. So it's just better to and it's just better to just follow this and apply the texture to everything. Now you can see that I will apply this to this, and you see that it does not work right, meaning that this is our first wrong texture used, and we're using the wrong texture for the material. So this is where we'll try to use a different texture and see if that works. Well, we already know that it's the lights texture, so we'll bring that in, and that works. Then we'll do the same with another one. Now what you can do is, if you have a low number of texture files, or if you already know that the texture which material uses which textures, you can just press Ctrl C on this and then Ctrl V and just paste it. So just like that, I know that these are the tail lights. So they will very likely use the light texture. So I will press Control V on that, uh, X on that, then Control V, and now we're in business. Delete, Control V, and done. Then same, delete, Control V, and done. Oh wait, now we're done. And you can see that also changed a few other things as well. These lights as well, they're affected by the same material, and these other lights, they're all using the same material, because if we affect this, if we look at this has the same names as same materials as this. They're not just coincidentally the same name, and this also has the same names. So one material is used in multiple spots, so it's changed everywhere. Now this one also uh, probably uses the that one. However, there is this issue which we will fix later, because this sometimes happens where textures don't exactly line up, and then you have to make compromises. So you X, Control V, and there. And if for some reason you're unable to actually click on the pink parts means that there's a material missing. You can just click on them from the left on the right, and it will do the same thing. We do that, then let's see. This other pink part is not actually part of the light itself. Now this and this, the material it uses is glass. However, if we were to actually, well, TG lights.tga, we'll select that. We press A on this side and select it. You can see that the UV mapping is off. And uh, if you don't know what UV mapping is, it's uh, basically the way a 2D, a 3D object is folded. It's basically the way a 3D object is shown or told how to actually present a 2D image, because 3D objects, they don't actually render things in 3D. They're just, the looks of them are in 2D files. They're flat files. So we can see here that this one is causing a bit of issues, and and you might think that this is an error of the wrong texture, but if you actually look through these, none of these textures actually lines up with this. So meaning that this is just a bug, and we have to fix this ourselves. So if we just do a bit of tinkering of our own, we do this, select all of this and this, then you will see this looks much more normal, and you can press Alt G on that. And then for this one as well, this one has a different layout but the same structure, I guess. So we can apply the same thing, and voila, we now have Yaris lights. And now you might notice this thing here. Well, wait, wrong selection. This thing standing out, this part, how and this part appears. However, it is it is in transparent parts, so it's just like the Toyota logo, where it looks black but it's just transparent, so it's not really anything to worry about. If for some reason, however, this was not transparent, then you can actually just edit the model and then either delete these parts or just move them back under the light, and everything will be fine. Then the only pink parts we have left, windows we're not messing with. We click on this, we have matte colors. So if we go back to layout with our screen, let's see, matte colors, we can try, well, this is lights, so if we, well, where is it, fast to send, no damage, and then this, and it does appear to work. There are sometimes situations where it looks like it's working, and but you don't actually know what other parts are affected, so you do have to look around a bit. So if I have now you can see that apparently it also affects the exhaust, and this part is gray, this part is grayer, so yes, it does work, right? But in those situations, you can, if you know what you're doing, create your own texture or edit the existing one. But you make sure to be careful because uh, you can mess up very big time, and then it's a bit difficult to figure out what's wrong. And then this part, this would be undercarriage. We can again try, not that, no damage, and see if it works. It does appear to work, and then try this. And then you can actually see that we have made a mistake. This is not undercarriage. I have given it the texture of no damage, but that is not the texture it uses, because then there is this issue right here. This text should not show up, meaning we've used a wrong texture. So in this situation, we will just try another texture. Let's try this one. And this one bugs out even more, meaning that it is neither of those textures, and it might be this one. Now this one works completely fine. It does not present any visible errors, but you do still have to look around and make sure that everything is actually fine. And just go back and forth. Then once you think, okay, it's working, it's a-okay, then you can move on to the other textures that need fixing. Then however, now that if you look at, you do still have to actually just figure out, it looks fine. And in fact, it might just be the actual look that we need, but no, there's no actual way of telling because it's just so dark, because the texture is just black. Now if we click on this and then bottom, this one would probably also use this, so we'll give it a try, and everything looks fine. Yeah, you just have to make sure that everything works, or that there's no errors or anything. And I have just given the wrong texture. I'm pressing Control C too much. Anyways, that's done. Now this part, this would probably also be no, this one. Let's see. Maybe. Now the issue here is that a lot of these parts are dark, and what we did was make our main color also dark. That's what I did. Never mind. That was a mistake on my end. I was not supposed to. I accidentally gave body that. So you just have to make sure that everything looks right. How many times have I said that? Anyways, this part. Now as you can see here, both of those textures that I tried, they don't work. Well, it kind of looks like they did work, but it didn't necessarily work. No damage load 0 is what we tried, but this part, it does not work right. So in this situation, what we can do is use another texture, but it might This might be our first ever new texture that we might have. Let's see. Yep, none of those textures work. So this is the situation where none of our textures work and we have to fix the way it looks. In this situation, we can try one of two things. Either one, we make our own texture, which is a lot more troublesome, takes more time, but usually gives cleaner results. And two would be to just change the UV mapping so it can use an existing one. So if you were to go to UV editing, select this. This is the apparently the layout of the that section. So if we were to go to no damage load 0, so we do actually have to give this to, let's see, image node. So this is the texture it currently has right now. So if you were to go to UV editing, this changes, and we'll change this so that it lines up with one of these parts and actually looks proper. So in that situation, it would be something like So we can see here, we can just try to find a texture that is similar or can alternate for it, and that would probably be this grill part of this texture. So we can actually select this, or press L, and it shows this. So G, then scale down, rotate, and it's just like how we had fixed that light. And then for that's why. So we actually have to make sure that we're using the right texture. So that would be that one. Now it works fine, this one, but the others still use this texture. So because their UV mapping is not is not edited, so we select that and then repeat, and then we'll just move this part out of the way and then work on the next one. Now that that's all done, we can move all of these original parts back, and then the only remaining pink parts are the tire. Well, we don't actually have to do anything to figure out which texture is for the tire. Or actually, wait. Okay, so let's see then. The tire. Then there's also this part. I have no idea what it is. Oh, come on! It just keeps getting. This is why you can understand. If anyone makes a mod, appreciate it, because it probably took them a bit of while to actually do. So we'll try this one, and it is the same situation as this actually. So it looked right, but it was, oh god. So all of these are just, huh. So in that situation I would use a different texture. I think I know now. These texture files, just like how Most Wanted has its own texture files built in. These were probably texture files for Forza, and that's what the game is trying to do. But it's honestly only one body kit, so well, the rest of them are the grill, which we fixed. It's just this one body kit, so I guess it's fine. Then we move on to these wipers, black glass, so that works. And now most of it is done. The only parts that are not done, this one seems to be that, and then this I know because I saw in the texture which one it is. This one. Okay. Now lights are done, and I think that is every material done. However, if I was to actually going to look through all of these materials, then this one, emblem, I have, could be the tire. No, the tire is a different one. I cannot find, here it is, emblem. So this would just be no damage, and yeah, there it is. That's it, I guess. Well, there is tires, but this is the situation where also there is no texture for it, so we'll have to probably make our own, or we can use an existing. So before actually having to go in and make our own, oh god, I'm so tired actually. Well, what we can try is, we'll just see. Yeah, we'll have to make our own actually, and we'll also have, but while we're at it, it would also help to clear, it would also help to actually make the car colorable while customization, and that's also something important. This is the last, this is probably the last part left then. I guess that's it. Control F to save. That was all of that pain. Oh god. But now that that's done, we can actually have a look at the layout of the actual car itself, and it seems like this is the right side, middle, and then right. Vinyl customization is going to be something that takes is not going to be able to cover it in this, as is decal or things, because it's already gotten very long. You can ask for help on the other Discord servers, but we spent this long here and we still haven't actually gotten the car to show up in game or even created the files for it. But it will. We're very, very close. Just stick with me. Alt G. And these are the windows. So now we actually go on. We'll do color, custom coloring. You know what? Actually, the tires are left. So, boy. So here's what we'll do. We'll go to paint.net and it's smart. And then what we'll do is exit this and then file, new, and just it has to make sure that it's a power of 4 and that it's high resolution. So 1024 by 1024 should work. And we'll be making 2 of these, or we're saving 2 of them, one for the tires, one for the actual colorable car of the skin, the colorable paint of the car. The first one you just save as a DDS, which is completely blank, and then we'll this first one we'll call it this first one we'll call %_skin1. This is important. This is very important to make sure that it has this name, otherwise it won't be recolorable. Then and also make sure that it's txt1. After that, we'll just make some part of it black, and then select the brush tool and make it a bit wider. Just any part of it black, actually. It doesn't matter which part, because that will be fixed in UV editing. And then file, save as, and then %_tire. Or you do have to make sure that the spellings are correct. So let's see here. It's spelled T-I-R-E. Sometimes I spell it with T-Y-R-E. I just change between the two. In any case, this should also be DXT1, and then click OK. Then the file you just saved, you do have to actually change the UV maps, and since it's a new texture, you can just delete all of this, make a new material, and then give it a base color of image texture, open %_tire. Now in UV editing, tire. This is currently the UV map of our tire. So if to actually make it look like the UV map of a tire, what we'll do is I just press Shift H, that hides everything but what I selected. Then View, Orthographic, and then press U and project from View. This will, whatever the UV texture is, it will project it from my current view. So if I was to view it like this, project from view, that's what it would look like. So front or back, view, project from view, and then that's what we'll see. Now we want this black part to be the rubber part, because the outer part to be the black part, because that's the rubber. So we'll select all of these parts by pressing L, and then it shows up here, and then we just move it to this, and the rest of the other parts are white. So it it should work fine. And this is what we have as the tire of the Yaris. And then for the we'll press Alt H to bring everything else back. These are the windows. I really need sleep. It's already midnight. Windows don't need any UV editing changes. The body, the material that gives it's called body. So press Ctrl S and then file. We don't have to export it again because we didn't actually change the mesh in any way, so it won't make a difference to CarToolkit. Everything, all of that pain was just so we can actually know what to write in the config file. But in any case, what we'll now do is all of the textures which we used, what we'll do is we'll go to the textures folder and then all wait a minute, this is not where we'll go to the textures folder. We'll go to the textures folder, and then all of these files, what we'll do is we'll convert them to DDS and put them all into one location that we can easily access. And since this is a mod that I've already done that. So it's done here, DDS, and all of these parts you have to select DXT3 or DXT1 based on based on whether or not they're transparent or not. In any case, after you're done doing that, or you know what, so what you'll do is you have all of these files that are the texture files, and then you also have those two custom files that you created. So you will open all these files in all the files that you used. I know for a fact that this image texture was never used, this one was used, and this one was also never used. I'll just open all of these in paint.net and then file, save as, and then in a separate folder, in a new folder, so we'll do name DDF textures. This will be %_NISC. It can be any name from that texture from here, any name at all. So I can even, this is the live texture, I can even name it %_tire and it would work. So %_NISC, and then select DDS and then save, and DXT3 because it's a light. Then across that, file, save as, and then then in DDF textures %_logo. Now logo is not the same as badging, just trust me on that. I really need sleep. It's different, and you'll also make this DFT1. It does not have the same effect of badging. Badging is just special. Click OK. We'll exit that. Then file, save as, and since this has logos, we'll also have to say this is DXT3. But here's the special thing that we'll have to do is I'll tell you when we actually get there. So DDF textures. So what we'll do is we'll first write %_engine, and then as save DDS, save. Wait, I didn't select DDS. So save as percent underscore engine, save DDS. So first we'll save it as dxt1, and then that one was named engine, and then we'll write percent underscore what was it, badging for dxt3. And you just have to take my word on this. That's just how it works. Press OK, and then that's done. All of our textures are done. We now know which material uses which texture. We can go to the textures folder, which is all of this. Then there's also this and this, which we'll bring into here, and scan one. Am I missing anything? I don't think I am. I don't think any of these textures use a different one. So I guess now it's finally time to bring this car into the game. About freaking finally. So you'll want to first you'll just close that, and then you'll want to put this on the side and have the Yaris config open, and you'll be working on this actively a lot. So every single material you saw, you have to write here, and then give it a shader, and then tell which texture it's using. But it's not this part isn't too hard once you actually know which material you're using. So for example, if I click this frame, if I was to go to the shading tab, then, or you know what, I guess in just a little different layout, I can just go to freaking shader editor. I don't even have to have the 3D model open. This is frame. So first slot here, frame, and frame would be okay, I guess the 3D model is necessary because you actually need to see what kind of reflection it is. So frame, let's see, I have no idea which part of this is frame, but it looks like it's not something that's here. All of this looks like it's from body. So it is something that we can just set as interior. Anything that, again, as I said, you don't have to make all of the shaders actually line up. So in my case, since I just want, I know that you're feeling impatient and you just want the car to be in the game already, I'll just, every part that is non-reflective I'll set to interior, and every part that is reflective I'll set to car skin. That would do the job and still give you 99% of the result. Let's see, body, car skin, percent underscore skin 1, material most wanted black, and now you can see that from this actual material preview, each material that used a different texture shows up differently. So undercarriage used the different texture, while all of these and all of this used the same texture, which would be percent, in this situation, percent underscore engine. Undercarriage used percent underscore logo, lights used percent underscore misc, and you can see badge used percent underscore badging. And so you just do this process and write whatever it uses, and then for you can just open the reference of reference here. Where is legal per person. So badging does not, okay, it has the shader of decal, but whatever, I'll just, since it's just for logos and stuff, I'll set it to reflective and make it car skin. And since it uses percent underscore badging, so we'll set it to that. Material most wanted, and this will go on for a while, so I'll see you when it's done. Now that we finally have all of our materials named and assigned, we can finally get to putting this car into the game. If we click on file, then load folder, and then you go to the folder in which you put the put all your DDS textures and name them appropriately, then you'll go to that folder, which is in here, and they'll all show up in CarToolkit. Geometry would you would load file, you would load the ERS objective, and then why did I say objective? It would show up in game. Now if you go to export ERS, you will click on this dot icon, then click ERS config icon, click on log level all. If you did everything right, then it should, if you click on geometry.bin and then textures.bin, they will be created and the car will be added to the game. But I think I did everything right, but there's always something like you miss. But CarToolkit tells you what's wrong, and then you can fix it instantly. And you can see duplicate material name found. So I accidentally added a name twice. So frame and frame, meaning let's see, which one does frame use? It uses engine, so it uses this one. So I can just remove this one. Yeah, you can't have duplicate material names. Press Control S on that, and then Chrome also is shown up twice. So there's Chrome and then there's Chrome. And so I'll remove that. Control S, then geometry.bin. Unable to parse. Okay. Yes. This we'll come back to. We'll just press backspace on that, ignore it, pretend it doesn't exist. And now, ladies and gentlemen, god damn it, let's see, we'll just go to error and warning. Let's see, yeah, some parts were missing configuration, grill 2, these were parts, these were just names I forgot to add, I guess, but I guess from because the material list, there isn't like a full list of material that shows up. You just have to click the part and then you see what material it has. So here what I'll do is let's see, it also tells you what parts it's assigned to. So assigned to base A, black underscore glass. So that's the same as this. So black underscore glass, then reflector is something that does not use percent engine. It uses the light, so look, this will so misc. Window, yes, this one I forgot. So as I said, the windows don't need a texture of their own, and you can use the ones already the game uses. So that would be this one. So we can just copy that line and then paste it, and then for whatever, it's just window. So windshield is the shader, and then window is the name of the material, and you're done. Then we have blur underscore lip. That is not meant what? Blur underscore. Oh yes, yes. Now I understand. So we removed those materials that we had earlier and then gave it our own skin. Now, however, since we did not export this actual file, the CarToolkit is still reading from the old file, so we need to actually reload the file and write instead material.0.09 material.09 rubber, which one? It was percent underscore tire, and then I have CarToolkit. Let's see, window. I guess most of these are common. Carbon fiber to kit 04. Let's see. Okay, that one uses a different one. So, material carbon fiber interior, and this one it uses logo. So, underscore logo, and what we'll do is we'll drag this file, export obj, and then file reload geometry.bin. Then we have misc, which is assigned to the headlight, missing. This would just be this misc, and then misc bottom assigned to kit 01 body A. So this one uses logo, so it would be this bottom, and then headlight underscore paint. This is kit 04 body A, so this also uses engine, so percent underscore engine. Grill 2, which is assigned to the hoods, is missing configuration, which would just be this. So grill 2 would just be the same as grill 1, I guess. And oh yes, these would not use. Okay, never mind. They would. And I had thought for a moment that they would use the car skin texture, but for that we have the body, so that's not what they're going to use. Now that's done. Geometry.bin. We have a duplicate grill 1. Oh yes, this is grill 2. Control S. Geometry.bin. And then we have some invalid part names, which I think it's because of, let's see, headlight, left brake light glass. So left brake light. Here it is. So what if we didn't name this part as well? We have to do that as well, and then it's just a lot of error fixing. Then left headlight glass here, and then we do the same. Right brake light underscore A, and then same for glass. And Control S, file, export, obj, export. That's done. Now file reload, geometry.bin. Let's see, file, left underscore brake light underscore glass underscore, which one is it? Left brake light. I think I put a space. Yes, I did. That's not supposed to be there. And then for right headlight, right, um, here it is. Control S, export, and now reload. No errors and no warnings. All greens. Everything works. And now if you click on textures.min, the car is finally done, and now we can add it to the game.